I created a secret with a man young enough to be my son. I never imagined something like this happening to me. Here, in this space, I'll share a story I haven't even told my closest friend. I met my husband at a college of education, and we had siblings. As an elementary school teacher, I lived near my parents' home and worked hard. Thanks to my parents taking care of the children, I could work with peace of mind. Although I was busy with training and education during the vacations, it was manageable at a young age. The children grew up better than expected. Now in our late 60s, our children have all moved out, and my husband has started doing something he's always wanted to. One of his bucket list items, he's driving a taxi. We've been retired for a while, and we could live comfortably on our pensions. But my husband wanted to meet many people through taxi driving. Because of this, I spend every other night alone. When the children are busy, I occasionally look after the grandchildren. Having been a teacher for so long, I couldn't neglect my grandchildren's education. Living frugally with my husband, we saved money and moved to a larger apartment. Our son, daughter-in-law, daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren sometimes stay over, and it seemed uncomfortable to have them stay in a cramped house. So we used our savings to buy a new apartment. That's when it happened. We were planning to make this our last home and decided to do some interior decorating. Our son and daughter agreed to cover the costs. I visited various local interior companies to get quotes, but didn't like any of them until my daughter recommended one. I met with the young male owner, who seemed about my son's age. At the appointed time, he was meticulous and calm during the consultation. Interior design isn't decided in one go, so I had multiple consultations. There were many decisions and changes to make, and he was always kind during the consultations, choosing everything from the floors to the ceiling. Tiles and wallpaper was quite complicated, but the owner was patient, advising that it's okay to take time and make changes, which was comforting. Seeing how kind he looked, I asked, "Are you married?" And he replied, "No, I haven't had the time to start a family because of work." I said, "You seem about the same age as my son. It would be nice if you met a good woman and got married. You seem like you'd treat her very well." And our conversations became more comfortable, having dealt with parents for decades. This owner seemed to have a genuinely good character. As the moving day approached, we demolished the old house and proceeded with the renovations as planned. We started to decorate the house quite lavishly, to the extent that some might see it as extravagant. Every morning, new workers came to repair the house, and I would receive calls from the owner. "Ma'am, we're working on the bathroom today. It's going to be the loudest day. But I've already asked for understanding from your neighbors above and below. I've also distributed some drinks to them," he explained kindly. I've been closely monitoring the progress of the construction at my future home every day, even bringing snacks for the workers. Occasionally, the boss would visit the site to give detailed instructions. When moving day finally arrived, he gifted us a wall clock saying, "Live happily." The clock matched our home perfectly. Despite his ordinary appearance, the boss seemed to have an exceptional eye for detail. Living in a new house, especially in a bustling city center, brought immense happiness. My husband's taxi license was a significant investment, but our savings and investments from our younger days allowed us to spend without worry, knowing we could sell the license if needed. He found his new job very enjoyable, with some months bringing in more money than expected. One day, we even treated ourselves to a meal at a restaurant, a bit far from our home. However, issues with the house soon began to surface. After contacting the interior company about the defects, the boss personally came with his toolbox to fix them. Meeting him again after a year was delightful, and we exchanged news, including his recent marriage and his wife's pregnancy. He fixed the issues without charge, claiming it was still under warranty. On a particularly hot day, I offered him iced coffee, admiring his every move. I was embarrassed to admit my fondness for him, but he gracefully showed me a photo of his wife, who resembled me in my younger days. He mentioned that meeting me had made him hope to find someone elegant and well-mannered, like myself, and indeed he did. We caught up on each other's lives, and before he left, he advised me to take good care of my husband and stay healthy. After finishing up the repairs on our home, life had settled back into its usual routine. It had been about 6 months since my boss last visited my home. One evening, he called me. "Could you step out for a moment? I need to discuss something with you," he said. Curious, I asked what it was about. He mentioned he needed advice about an issue with his wife. We met up at a local restaurant to talk it over. He revealed that his wife had suffered an early miscarriage, and even months later, she was deeply depressed. She had an ectopic pregnancy, requiring emergency surgery and the removal of one of her fallopian tubes. The doctors had also found the other tube blocked, casting doubt on their ability to conceive naturally. My boss expressed feeling isolated. Having lost his parents in college and with his sibling living abroad, the stress of the miscarriage had strained their relationship, limiting their social interactions with friends who have children. Despite his own grief, he felt helpless in supporting his wife and sought my advice. I suggested he try to spend more quality time at home, although he lamented his busy schedule due to his thriving business. He felt torn between his responsibilities and his desire to support his wife, feeling particularly alone without his parents for guidance. He remembered me and reached out. He felt they didn't necessarily need to have children to be happy, but was frustrated by the lack of intimacy in their relationship. I felt compelled to share my own situation, revealing that my husband and I had been sleeping in separate rooms for over a decade. We lived together but separately, I admitted, expressing my own feelings of loneliness, despite having a nice home. My boss looked surprised. "You and your husband face similar issues?" "Yes, I feel quite lonely too. What's the use of a nice house and furniture if you feel alone?" He then asked for my help, and we acted on it immediately. My husband was out driving and wouldn't be back until the morning. We found solace in each other, filling a void. My boss complimented me on my vitality. We've been seeing each other occasionally since then. Whenever my husband leaves for work in the morning, I call my boss. He makes time to visit, and we share brief moments together, followed by a meal I prepare. He says it reminds him of meals his mother used to make, always asking for more. Despite his youth, he's been perceptive and understanding. Once my husband returned unexpectedly, but thanks to the double lock I had installed, we managed to avoid any issues. My boss had been careful, always bringing his toolbox and pretending to fix something. Whenever my husband asked why he was there, I'm conflicted by the deceit, knowing it contradicts the moral standards I've upheld and taught to my children. I'm aware this relationship with my boss may not last, but I've chosen to focus on the present moment.